Hi, I'm Danny with etrailer, and today we're going to take a look at, and I'm going to show you how to install the Firestone Air Command heavy-duty air compressor on our 2022 Ford F-350 Super Duty. If you have airbag suspension or you're planning on getting it installed, then getting an air compressor is a really good idea because you can just set the air pressure with a touch of a button on your phone or on the control module. And if you're going to be towing varying loads, different trailers, or different weights in your bed, then these are also a great idea because you can set those very easily. This is a remote that's going to come in your kit. You can easily toggle up and toggle down the pressure in your airbags, and there's going to be two presets here. You can also put up to 150 psi in your bags, but keep in mind when you're not towing, you need to keep them at 5 psi so you don't damage your bags. And when you're not using your remote, it does have this nice sun visor clip, so you can just put it on your visor and it's out of the way. Or there is an app actually that you can download and you can control everything from your phone if you're not wanting to use the remote. Your remote is rechargeable. You can just put a cable that comes in the kit, it's a USB-C, and get this charged. Now I'll go ahead and put 30 psi in the bags. You actually can use this remote from in your cab. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the preset at 30. And I don't know if you can hear it, but the compressor is really quiet. So you don't have to worry about that being noisy at your campsite or anything like that. As far as looks go, as you can see or not see, this is completely hidden behind the running board of your truck, so you don't have to worry about it changing the look of your vehicle. One nice thing about this kit is it actually comes with a mounting bracket, so you don't have to drill into your frame, which can be time-consuming and difficult at times. Now, another thing is this is made out of corrosion-resistant material and it's made in the USA, so you know it's going to last the test of time. If you decide to get this compressor for your truck or if you're installing it yourself, please let us know any tips or tricks or how you like it in a review or comment. Now getting onto the install, it is really easy, especially with that bracket it comes with. It makes putting it on your frame that much easier. But if you don't have the time or tools to do it yourself, then feel free to check out our dealer locator and we can find a professional in your area to do it for you. But if you're ready to get this installed, follow along and I'll show you how to do it. To start off this installation, we can go ahead and get our air fittings onto our compressor. This straight fitting is going to go on the front of the compressor here. You're going to want to tighten it until the thread lock is completely hidden here. I'm going to use a 12mm wrench and get this tightened on. Now on the back of the compressor, I'm going to remove this rubber cap here. And we're going to put this air fitting on as well. And this one will be going to our air filter. Now a bracket does come in this kit, which is really nice, so I'll go ahead and put this together now and we can get this attached to the frame. So I'll get one of our angled pieces, line those up with the squares, get our inch carriage bolt, feed that through. I'll get my hardware on. And I'll do this to the other side as well. These 3 square holes are going to be up top, so it will be on the frame in this direction. So these will be facing the truck bed. So I'll go ahead and get the ECU on. So the plug is going to be more offset to the left. And I'll get a small washer and a small bolt. Get that through, and then our hardware on. Something I did forget to mention is these 2 square holes, they'll be closer together, and that's going to be the bottom facing the ground. So now I'll put this back on and get everything tightened down, and then put our compressor on. I tightened these 4 down with a 15mm socket. Now I'm going to tighten these down with a 10mm socket and a Phillips head screwdriver on the other end. Now we can put the compressor into place. We're going to be using these inner holes right here. Put that on. And same thing, we're going to get a washer, get this through. We're going to use another washer followed by a nylock nut. And with all these hand tight, I will go ahead and tighten them down the rest of the way. And make sure you tighten these all down a little bit and then go back through and tighten them down the rest of the way. You don't want to squish the rubber too much on the fitting there. I got the carriage bolts that come in the kit. I'm going to put those in the top square hole on our bracket. And I already removed some of the harness here. There's just some push pins that you just pull out. And I'm going to push this up and out of the way, and I'm going to try and get this bracket right here on the frame. So I'm going to lift this up, try and go behind the wire harness. On the back side here, I'm going to get the bracket that goes on the back. I'm going to get this under this line here and fed through the top holes. I'll get the hardware on and do this on the other side as well. We can go ahead and get these all tightened down. I'm going to start with the bottom, get this lined up correctly, and then I'll tighten the top. Again, don't bear down on it. You're going to want to tighten both evenly. Now we can go ahead and run our airline tubing to our airbags. Do make sure you have some airline tubing cutters or a sharp utility knife to get a nice clean cut. But I'll go ahead and run this and show you the path we took. Starting at the inflation valve here from our compressor, I got the airline tubing and went into a T-union. And one side is going to our ECU control module, and the other side is following our existing harness, then going through our frame, and finally going to go to our airbags. I did get a P-clamp here to secure it to our frame, and I went on the outside just because of the exhaust is on the inside. Our line is crossing over the frame at this point, and I did do another P-clamp on our cross member over here and put it into another Union T. Now, one line is going to our other bag and the other line is going to our passenger side bag. Now for how I routed the air intake airline, I plugged in where we put our fitting, and I did coil it. You want to coil it at least once so water and debris will set at the bottom and not go into the compressor. But after that, I followed our other harness and our other airline up into our air filter here. And I did just zip tie that to the frame, somewhere that's not going to get super dirty and super wet. We can go ahead and get our wiring installed now. So first off, I'm going to get the ground coming off of our compressor installed on our frame. I did drill a hole just so it'll be easier to get a self-tapper in there. So now I'm going to get the self-tapper in there. Make sure your impact is on self-tapping mode because you don't want to break this off in the frame. All right. With our harness here, one side is going to have a quick disconnect fitting and a gray plug on one side, and then the other side is going to have your ground, positive, and your fuse that'll be under this cap here. So we're going to grab these two, and on the positive end on your compressor, I'm going to plug this in. Now I will wrap this in electrical tape later on just so no water can get to it. And then this is going to plug into the ECU. So I'll go ahead and plug this in. And now we'll go ahead and route this up to the engine bay, and I'll show you the path we took. I went ahead and routed the wire harness along with the existing wire harness on the truck. I zip tied it to it, going all the way up into the cab. Now, when I got to this point, I fished down a airline tubing, so some spare tube I had. You could use a wire or even a metal fish would work. And then I pulled the rest of the harness up into the engine bay. With our harness up in the engine bay, I'm going to pull this tight and zip tie it just so this can't fall back down. Next, I'm going to remove the fuse so we don't blow it when we attach the power. Just pull that out. I'm going to use a 10mm socket and remove the nut on the positive terminal. I'll go ahead and put our positive eyelet on our positive post. Get this tightened down. And the positive one is the one connected to the fuse, and it's going to be red. I'm going to take a 8mm socket and get this ground removed, and I'm going to put our ground on this. And I'll put our ground on and reinstall the bolt. This yellow wire in the harness will not be used, but I'm going to go ahead and tape it just to make sure it's protected from the elements here. I went ahead and coiled up the access we had, and I'm just going to put that on top of the fuse box here, just out of the way, and I zip tied all the rest up out of the way. Now with everything attached, I can go ahead and put the fuse back in our fuse holder, and I do have our remote on standby so it can pair. And as you can see, it didn't take too long, and it paired to our module. So like I said before, you can connect your ECU to your phone and control it that way. But for today, I'm just going to use the remote. And to test it out, I'm going to put maybe 30 PSI in the bags. And with air in the system, I'll go ahead and raise it up and test it for leaks. I'll go ahead and test all of our connections with a soapy water solution. I'm just going to spray it on here. And if it's leaking, you'll see bubbles continually form. So it looks like we're good on that connection. Go ahead and spray our T-union. And we're good there, and I'll go ahead and spray our other T-union in the back of the vehicle. This T-fitting is looking good, so there is no leaks in our system. So with that, you're ready to go. And that was a look at the Firestone air compressor on our 2022 Ford F-350 Super Duty.